discussing with UHD is because one of the professors made a speech or presentation at our monthly PSUP on Houston's history, and from that came then an intervention at their honors program, me talking about Finland and what it is that makes Finland Finnish. And then we got into their honors program, traveling to Finland and looking for contacts there. Of course, most of you know that Finland is fairly high rated when it comes to primary education in the PISA studies, and the same goes for universities.
So
Finch?
Yes.
That was a poor joke, I'm sorry.
Well,
But
he.
you must know that in Finland we communicate a lot through silence, and we say something only when we have something to say.
So, can you speak about the mission of the Finnish-American Chamber of Commerce?
We are here to facilitate economic, commercial contacts between Finland and Houston, or the greater Houston area, and also help in cultural, educational aspects, helping especially newcomers, and to a very large extent serve the community as a social meeting point, and giving our members the possibility to meet people, colleagues from other chambers, be it Nordic, or like we lately have had also European cooperation.
Now, do you currently have any type of a welcome wagon for Finnish residents who have transplanted over here to the United States?
Or Finnish companies?
Companies, particularly to Houston?
No, we have nothing prepared. As soon as we hear about anybody who has been asking about Houston, we contact them asking what can we do, and frankly speaking, we also try to sell the services of GHP, which is absolutely great.
Well, we hope to be able to be a lightning rod of attention for the Finnish Chamber with regards to new Finnish residents who are coming here to Houston, Texas. And certainly we want to be able to develop a long-term relationship both with yourselves and with Anna and with Heikki.
No, that's Heikki, that's Steen.
Steen, I'm sorry. It seems that right now, as you all probably know, the world is a community with social media and sharing. Now the pond has become a lake, okay? And right now we are using technologies. Right now this show itself is being streamed, okay? And people will be able to, it'll be archived and people will be able to listen to it at a later date. So I only say that to say this, is that this is a moment in my life personally that I am really, really impressed with the status of the guests that we have yourselves here today. And I understand now when I see the wind blades going to the farms on 610. I understand, okay? When I see the tankers with the name Maersk on them, I understand. So the lights have gone on, and I said, my God, this is an enormous amount of commerce and exchange that's going on. And I'm happy to see it, and I would love to be able to be a small cog in the wheel that sees that that helps it to continue and improve.
But one of the things is that I believe that you guys have amazing cultures. They were world powers before people knew what world powers were.
Sure.
And they still exist and are on the world stage at levels that are very amazing. And I'm going to let them speak to that about culture. We had a conversation about simple cuisine that when I talked to the young man, he said, our seasonings for the food in Denmark are basically salt and pepper. But the corollary to that was, but the freshness of the produce, the food, and things is that when you eat a potato, it's a potato. You can taste it. So it doesn't need anything else. So he said their fare is very simple, but it's probably some of the best food in the world.
Probably very healthy.
And one of the issues he talked to me about was Christmas dinner. And I'd like for Mr. Pedersen to talk about that conversation. It was very interesting.
Well, the traditional, considering we are coming up on Christmas, the traditional Danish Christmas dinner consists of normally duck, roasted duck, which of course is very tasty. Then we have the pork roast, and the pork roast actually we keep the skin on, so you have this cracklings. Once you roasted in the oven, you'll get the cracklings, and of course that's pure fat. So it's not, that part is not very healthy, but that is the traditional Danish Christmas dinner with then the regular potatoes, and as we talked about, then we have also regular potatoes, but these are then caramelized with butter and a lot of butter, a lot of sugar on the pan, and they are indeed very tasty. But that yeah, you said the food might be very, very healthy. This particular part is not that healthy.
Well, one of the things is that's Christmas dinner. They can have it, it's a simple fare, but they can have it every day of the year, but they save it for Christmas, and their eyes lit up when they spoke about that. And that was a part of the culture that I appreciated, that the simple traditions, the simple food, and the simple fare, they had great pride in. We didn't have to understand it, but it was, again, like opening presents on Christmas. They were very excited about caramelized potatoes on Christmas. And you celebrate Christmas Day, but you also celebrate Christmas Eve.
We celebrate the Christmas Eve, the 24th, where we do have normally we will go to church, and then we'll have the dinner, and then we'll dance and sing around the Christmas tree, and then open the presents. And then the 25th is traditionally where you go to visit with friends or family and have a huge Christmas luncheon, which starts at 1 and 2, and you have too much to eat again and too much to drink again, and then you go home, and then the 26th we do the same all over again. We actually celebrate the 25th and 26th as well.
And Mr. Bergman, how do they do it in Finland?
I think all the Nordic countries are fairly similar, but there are always variations to the theme. In Finland, the main course for Christmas Eve is a baked ham, which is normally then good enough to keep the family for, let's say, 4 or 5 days, so that nobody has to work in the kitchen. That accompanied by buns and potatoes, broccoli, whatever. And also, inevitably, herring, marinated in umpteen different sauces, and salmon, gravlax.
Akvavit. It's not forget about the
not akvavit.
For the lunch, we have it for
Vodka.
lunch.
Vodka. Akvavit is Scandinavian. For the same thing, yes. I mean, vodka tends to be not spiced.
Correct.
That sounds delicious. That sounds delicious. So, with regards to, I guess after on the 27th, everybody goes back to work.
Correct. Yes, correct.
Okay, and they get back one way or the other. Anna, please.
Not official Denmark. Denmark is usually pretty much closed between Christmas and New Year's. They do not go back to work. And back in the day, when I grew up, we celebrated, as Steen just said, we had little Christmas Eve, that's the 23rd. Then you have Christmas Eve, that's the 24th. First Christmas Day, that's the 25th. The 26th, you get to the next relatives. 27th, which when I was a child was called Third Christmas Day. You start visiting some other aunts and uncles, and it's the big Danish smørrebrødsbord every day. And by the 29th, you've had all the food you could eat, and then it's New Year's.
And it's New Year's.
So is it more about family and connecting than it is about gifts and presents and holiday cheer?
I think it's a lot about family and connecting still, and you take it as a chance to visit with all of your friends and relatives. It is still very big in Denmark.
We have a long traditions, and very old traditions for Christmas, and it's also New Year's.
Well, speaking of that, one of the conversations, and Mr. Bergman, you may weigh in on it, last night there was a conversation about the buildings and the housing stock and the construction of the buildings and homes and businesses that exist. Some of these buildings have existed for centuries, and people still visit them, utilize them. That is an amazing part of the culture, to where in America you may have a house and it's brand new, but in 12 years it starts to, and nothing against American housing and Indian construction, but you start to notice it falls apart. But in your countries, you have buildings and construction and entities that have existed for centuries that you can still walk in today and have a meal or a lunch and be sitting somewhere where maybe a king or a dignitary or a very famous person from your community has lived, and it's like the bow of a ship, or it's an old bakery, or it's an old factory.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of the buildings and the house, which is just a different quality of
We
the
had
new
a
build, right?
big building boom in the 1600s under King Christian IV. He built half of Copenhagen, and a lot of the buildings that he built are still standing. That would be castles, the old boors, the Round Tower, which is a landmark in Copenhagen. The associated church with that is called the New University Church. The New University Church was built in 1600 and something, as opposed to the old University Church. I was married in that one. And I
Nothing
loved
like
it.
good workmanship.
And in
That's right.
and in Finland, Mr. Bergman?
In Finland, the situation is a little bit different, as there aren't that many buildings built in stone. And, well, you know the Finnish climate. During the winter, it's a little bit chilly. So you need to heat a lot, and everything used to be built in wood. So inevitably, there were even big fires where basically the whole city burned down. Like my native city burned 1852 for the last time.
Wow.
So they are gone, but of course there are still some stone buildings all over the country. But the main building material was wood. Like in the old days, you used to have a smoke sauna, and a good smoke sauna burnt every 10 years.
Wow, amazing. Hold that thought right there. We'll be right back after these messages.